So Mayor Watson says, I'm going to ask after this phone call whether the federal government will live up to its commitment. We need boots on the ground very shortly. It's not dying down. It took over Metcalfe Street, blocked all of it. And you reply, listen, yes, you can say the federal government will be there with more resources. But again, the thing that frustrates me, and everyone is conflated, but Doug Ford has been hiding from his responsibility on it for political reasons, as you highlighted. I suppose it's important that we don't let them get away from that. We intend to support you on that. And Mayor Watson replies, if they keep dragging their feet, I'm happy to call them out on it. It would be nice if we got something firmed up with the federal government to shame them. Ford didn't even make an effort to come and see what's going on. So can I just ask you, Prime Minister, to comment a bit on the politics that are going on there?
Well, first of all, when I say everyone is, I believe is conflating, it was conflating, a protest of federal issues with a federal responsibility to do the policing that would dissipate that protest. So that was, a little bit of an interplay that there was a sense that in the initial phases of the protest, the Ontario government was happy for the perception to be out there that this was a City of Ottawa issue and a federal government issue, and that as a province, they really didn't have a responsibility or a jurisdiction to play in there. It was an unpleasant situation. There were bad headlines. I was getting grumbled at by citizens of Ottawa every day because the federal government wasn't dealing with it. I can understand that provincial politicians who were being overlooked in the complaints everyone had about why this wasn't getting resolved would say, you know what, let's not poke our noses into this, and people will continue criticizing those people that help. I'm fairly certain that behind the scenes, the OPP was engaged with Ottawa Police Services and was providing supports as we were as a federal government. But I think at the political level, there was probably a decision to continue to stay back a little bit and let us wear it a little bit. What we had seen during the pandemic and during other crises is when the three orders of government are able to work seamlessly together. Not only does it deliver better results and better coordination, but it actually reassures citizens to see that people who are not always politically aligned at the highest levels can roll up their sleeves and work for the benefit of citizens. And that's certainly something that I've always tried to do, and I've been able to do with Premier Ford on many, many issues. But at this point in the evolution of the occupation, that wasn't something that we were able to do. And so, yes, there was a bit of frustration about it.
Okay, well, and we'll see that the very next day you had a call with Premier Ford, and just in the narrative, what was going on at this point is, in addition to Ottawa, and there were a few things, as we know, going on across the country, but by this time, the 7th, 8th, 9th, the Ambassador Bridge blockade had really heated up and was in full swing, and that seemed to be a turning point. Several ways, but certainly for Ontario's participation in all of this. So, Mr. Clerk, if you can take that document down, please, and bring up ssm.can.nsc 402845. So, point for advocacy, to make a long story short, this is a call where it seems that you and Premier Ford are engaging and deciding to work together to solve this problem at this point. We can skip over the first, here we go, the last part of that first paragraph. So PDF, Premier Doug Ford. He says, what we can recommend and what we can work together on is, I've asked our AG, our Attorney General, to look at legal ways to give police more tools and exhaust legal remedies, because the police are a little shy and I can't direct them. So that's one area we can focus on. We can't take their polar licenses. We checked that. We can shut down their fuel consumption and cordon off highways. That's where we're at. And
might be operator licenses.
Yeah, probably not polar, but operator licenses. Let's go with that. So then you reply, First of all, they're not a legal protest. They're occupying a municipal street and are not legally parked. You shouldn't need more tools, legal tools. They're barricading the Ontario economy and doing millions of dollars of damage a day and harming people's lives. At a time we're trying to draw in investments, a whole bunch of people are looking at this and saying, we can't even clear up a protest on a bridge. So just stopping there, Prime Minister, do you remember what you were referring to when you start talking about you shouldn't need more tools?
I mean, that whole question around legality or illegality of the protest, they didn't have a permit to protest. They not certainly as long as they had. They were illegally parked. They were engaged in disruptive activities. There are any number of municipal and provincial bylaw infractions and legal infractions that they were engaged in by just being there. And there is a sense that, and this was based on an earlier conversation I had with Bill Blair about how one proceeds in this, is, you can enforce small things as a way of keeping the situation under control and creating boundaries and balances and moving towards it. It's an approach. The issue here was that there were things that they could do and things that I know were tried that they realized were unsafe for them to do. There are stories of police officers getting swarmed there when they tried to arrest someone with a jerry can filled with gasoline. There was a sense that, giving out simple tickets wasn't really having much of an impact as they did that. And taking stronger measures was going to be resisted and met with significant resistance. But these are things that if they feel they didn't have the resources to enforce a prohibition on bringing in jerry cans or a prohibition of parking on the approach to the Ambassador Bridge, well, let us give you more resources to do that. Between the OPP and the RCMP, we should be able to get the numbers up in a way that could lead for an ability to use those existing tools on the books. That was very much where our thinking was at that point. Like how many more police officers, how much more resources do you need to get a plan? And if there was a concern around, we can't get those police allocated to us from other jurisdictions unless there is a clear plan, well, we'll send you planners. We'll help get those people there so you can establish a plan that will allow itself to be deployed. There was really a sense that there was more things that could be done, and he seemed to be agreeing.
Okay, and that's actually what you end up saying in the part you can't see right now of that, the next page, the paragraph.
I am at least consistent.
So you say the Bridges and Tunnels Act means the federal government has something, I can't read that anymore, but the federal government has responsibility over the bridge and border. So there's a role for us to play. We're happy to play it, but nobody can get on the bridge because they're on municipal land being blocked. So we'll give you whatever resources you need. The police of jurisdiction need to do their job. If they're saying they can't do it because they don't have enough officers or equipment, we need to remove that excuse as soon as possible so they can do their work and we can prevent Ontario from becoming a laughingstock. Mr. Clerk, just scroll down to the last page, please. We'll skip over, there's some jurisdictional discussions going on there. And then just at the top of that page, please, Mr. Clerk. So this is the sort of the conclusion of the conversation. You say, what are the next steps? You've said the OPP are going in. Are they keeping you apprised? And do they understand the urgency? They can't talk this out for 3 weeks. They need to act immediately. And I'm assuming there the concern of acting immediately is brought about by the situation on Ambassador Bridge, which we heard a lot about from the Deputy Prime Minister yesterday. Premier Ford replies they'll act, but without directing them, it's hard to describe their game plan. They'll have a plan, unlike Ottawa, where they didn't have a plan. I'll get briefed tomorrow from the Solicitor General, would keep you updated. This is critical. I hear you. I'll be up their ass with a wire brush. Then the next, yeah, you say, yes, that's one of the quotable quotes of the commission. There have been a few, that's one. The next, your reply there is, well, we're there with resources. Bill Blair will coordinate on our side. You can reach out to LeBlanc, Minister LeBlanc, or me. You and I need to work together on this. People will be reassured by the two of us working together. We need to demonstrate this is not a place of lawlessness. Okay, we can take that down. Thank you, Mr.
I will say, though, that
I'm sorry.
they can't talk this out for 3 weeks. They need to act immediately. I wasn't just talking about the Ambassador Bridge. I was talking about Ottawa as well. I was talking about the fact that this simply can't continue to be stretched out this way. But when I say they need to act immediately, obviously, I'm not directing the Premier to direct police. We know all the limitations that we have, but there was an expectation that this was a situation that was going on for too long. And as Doug pointed out a couple paragraphs later, there is a sense that the police of jurisdiction had lost control and wasn't able to control the situation.
Okay,